Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast. We are back again at the craft beer cellar on Main Street in Plymouth for all your craft beer and boutique wine needs. You should stop in and say hi to Tatum. We are here today with singer-songwriter Joe Sabourin.
How's it going?
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Shit, I got one right. Singer-songwriter, mostly acoustic? Is that kind of how you roll?
Right now, it's how I'm rolling.
Yeah.
I'm getting back into a very historical phase, which...
What do you mean by historic? Like, personally historic? Or like, are you looking at the history of music in general?
So, one of the things that I've really hit on at various points in my career is like, folk music.
Mm-hmm.
And after a recent split with a band, I'm, like, completely into that idea of the like traveling barge-shaped singer-songwriter figure in literature, and so kind of digging into that and digging into older songs, and therefore the electric guitar has gone away in a case.
So are you looking at trying to get like a medieval kind of dark age kind of thing, or
Not
like
really?
that?
That's where that idea starts.
Yeah.
But it pops up all the way up until today. You know, it's very much not just the image we have for that old school bard, but Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
That sort of traveling musician. It's just them in a dirty guitar case. Or I'm digging into a lot of English folk musicians, Bert Jansch and John Redburn, and folks like that who... It's so much about this melding of their own personal history and then like these folk stories and archetypes that get dug up. And it's all the same story. Guy falls in love.
Yeah.
Girl leaves him. Someone ends up dead. Folk music. Throw in a G chord
say,
and you're just about there.
Say, it sounds like country music.
Well, that's where that all comes from, though. Yeah. Which was kind of a thing when... So the projects I was working in before this were a couple of like modern country groups.
Yeah.
And I was playing electric guitar and pedal steel.
Yeah.
For those bands. And so just kind of sitting in the back and filling in sound and all of that and going, wow, we've gotten really far away from where this music started out and where country music started. And that comes out of Appalachian folk music, which comes out of like 6 different types of folk music. And so to get there and be like, oh, every song is about drinking, like, yeah, that can come from folk music.
Right.
But, like, it's far less literate, you know? So part of what I'm looking at in the next year is kind of bringing back music literacy as a concept.
Okay.
And so that's kind of why I've gone acoustic. Like, I feel like I can take the attention off of the equipment and just bring, like, 1 or 2 guitars that I think sound good and do that.
So when you mean music literacy, do you mean like songs that are more than like 3 chords?
No. So as a musician, I actually like the shreddy or like the like those guys. I'm not about it. You know, I get people who come up to me. I do a jazz brunch gig in Boston every Sunday. Like, who's your favorite guitar player? Like, your favorite jazz guitar player? Is it like Joe Pass? Is it Pat Metheny? I'm like, I like Bill Frisell. He plays simple stuff, and it's almost folk music and in this jazz context.
Yeah.
So by no means does music literacy mean complex music. It means diverse music.
Okay.
Where when I turn on, you know, top 40 music or pop or country music or, you know, that type of thing, it lacks a lot of substance and a lot of deviation from the norm. And so for me, when I talk to other musicians or when I talk to other people who listen to music or consume music, you know, there are these certain things that just get missed where we have a very different vocab. You know?
Are you saying that Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy is not a deep song?
Theory-wise, it actually is, and you could get really deep on it theory-wise. So for your kind of complex thing, there's a lot going on. But it's a thing of not so much the song itself, but the birth or the girth or the whatever of music you have to listen to.
Yeah,
is huge. I have a 3-inch by 2-inch or whatever Square, I'm holding my phone. I listen to podcasts. I know that doesn't work. Man holds phone on podcast.
Yeah.
But
you missed the guy earlier who was doing arm gestures, and you're like,
I mean, that's me in a nutshell. But I can get whatever I want music-wise out of my phone, and I know so many people who listen to the same 20 tunes, or the same Spotify playlist for this time of day, and this time of day. And so many people who go, there's no good new music out there. Rock music is dead.
There's tons.
You have to dig.
Yeah.
But because it's so easy to get to the material on the surface, there's no one, or there are people, but there's not enough people going below it. And so to have a conversation about, music, so many people I talk to, we can only get so deep.
Mm-hmm.
From a playing perspective, that's so tough because if we don't have a wide enough range of musics we listen to as musicians, it's hard for us to communicate. Like if I go to a drummer, I can say, hey, let's do this a little bit more like the bridge from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
I've never heard that. I mean, he'd be the worst drummer in the world if that's what he said. But
right. It's that thing of.
But I understand what you're saying. Is like you can't be like, let's do it this way, and if that person has never heard that or been exposed to that style of music or that particular band, they're just gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And for a long time, I've thought that's how we communicate as musicians and as people describing music. If I go, oh yeah, man, I really love that song. The one where it goes boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, bang, boom.
Yeah.
I can't Shazam that. I can't yell onomatopoeia at my phone and figure out what that song is, and I can't do that at other people. I've been told.
Yeah, been told by the other people.
By the other people. My wife's like, "What are you singing? Hold on, let me get a guitar." So that's what I mean by music literacy: is we're being able to communicate so much less between each other about music because we're not digging deep enough. We're not working hard enough to find it because it's so readily available.
Well, it's readily available, and it's kind of in our control, which is good, but it's also bad because if you're in the car, the radio comes on, the car is going to dictate what songs are being played. Right. On your Spotify playlist, unless you go in and change it, it's just going to play the same song. So you kind of lack that new discovery of, unless, like you said, you go looking for it.
Correct. And it's one of those things where, because of the ways that I find music, I have no idea how other people find music, but it falls on my head. It'll be there's a blues guitar player, Gary Clark Jr.
Okay.
When he first came out with his first record, Black and Blue, I learned about it while I was playing in a church band. Has nothing to do with it. The keyboard player comes in, he just goes, "Dude, you're a guitar player, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "This will melt your face." And he hands me the CD, and he goes, "Just text me and let me know what you think about it."
Yeah.
And I get in the car, and I'm just like, I had to pull over. Because it was that different and that cool, and then thinking back on it years later and going, there was no reason in that situation for that to come into my thing. So that's how music comes to me, because I play music.
Right.
There are times when I have to go digging for it, obviously, but a lot of the times it's just like, hey, this week you're going to learn about this thing you never thought you'd ever dig into in your life. I know that other people don't have that because I watch what people listen to, and I have conversations where my wife will go, I don't know what to listen to when you're not here, because you make this decision, this emotional decision of what we're listening to.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know how to find music. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain how to find music to someone.
Right.
Because it's like, pick up phone, go find.
Yeah.
Those are the steps, and so, it becomes this thing of, between that and we've made this scattershot idea of genre, so it's so hard to dig in and really find stuff you like and then dig back out of that.
Genre now is almost meaningless because there's so many different mashups and crossovers, and we're a little bit of death metal and a little bit of jazz and a little bit of polka music, and
genre is so much your thing
When I was a kid, there was pop, rap, rock/metal.
Yeah.
And then like
jazz.
Yeah, jazz
and like probably
classical.
oldies and yeah. It's such a tough thing because like for a long time, I didn't know what to call my music. Mm-hmm. And then I finally figured out it's called Americana.
Okay.
And it's called that because it is distinctly American sounding, and that's it.
Right.
It's this immigrant shaped genre of like just, is it influenced by anything? It can be Americana. If there's a Telecaster and maybe a pedal steel.
Yeah.
But then I dug deep into that as I started identifying as that and like putting my music out there that way. And I'm like, everything I've ever liked fits into Americana. The Rolling Stones are my favorite Americana band. Like, it's that thing of...
But they're not American.
They are not American. But they are distinctly American sonically.
You think so?
I
feel like there's a whole country that would argue that.
I agree. The Rolling Stones... So, their music, and you listen to the sound that they're creating.
Yeah.
It is distinctly American. It's American music equipment all the way across the board. Fender amplification, Fender guitars, Gibson guitars, turned up as loud as they will go and just gone. And the sound that comes from that kind of raunchy, kind of ratty sound is so indicative of a style that is what we would think of as Americana. I wouldn't put them there officially. I wouldn't be like, Rolling Stones, the best Americana band ever.
Yeah.
But they definitely... they have that attitude, sound, and embodiment. Same thing with Tom Petty.
I was just going to say, Tom Petty is what I think of as Americana. Like,
agreed.
Off the top of my head.
I absolutely agree with that. It's American songwriting. It's that American sound. Basically, if you think road trip and you could put it on during that road trip, driving through like flat areas of land that are not green at all.
Corn as far as the eye can see.
Corn everywhere, or like there's mesa after mesa after like that is such the Americana thing. And then people will be like, "What kind of Americana?" I'm like, I just got here. So
that's kind of what I mean about genres. Is like you can't just be like, "Oh, I do rap music or I do metal." It'd be like, "Well, what kind of metal are you? Like pirate metal? Are you death metal?" And each one is so distinct that I understand why there's differentiation. What's the word, Fish? Come on, help me out.
Differentiate.
Thank you. My brain short circuits frequently.
That's okay.
That like you have to call them something different because you can't just be like, oh, we play metal,
right?
And if that's someone's first experience, they're like, well, I don't like metal. But
it's so important, and it's so unimportant at the same time, and that's entirely our fault as consumers of music.
Yeah.
Because we have found that we have a thing we like. Like, I know I like Celtic folk music.
Yeah.
And therefore, I've built a gate in front of liking other people, unless you nail it with, oh, they sound like Celtic folk music. Great, I'm there. Right. And even if they don't, I'm going to listen to it and I'll probably like it.
Right.
Because I go in with that idea. That's all that genre is opening a gate for something.
Yeah.
Of like, if you like this thing, then you will like this thing. And that's why I try to describe things as artists. Oh man, you like Nickel Creek? You're going to love the Punch Brothers because it takes that to another place.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. Oh, you like the Rolling Stones? You might actually like Tom Petty because it's a lot of the same sounds, just rearranged in a different order.
Right.
With a very different voice.
But you're right about putting up the gate, and like with the Spotify list and whatnot, you're almost making it worse because you're like, so I like Celtic folk music.
Yep.
And then so that algorithm goes, okay, and unless you put something else in, it's just going to feed you Celtic folk music.
Yep.
And Johnny Cash. For some reason, no matter what you do, it
will always give you Johnny Cash.
Everything leads back to Johnny Cash.
So I use Apple Music as my streaming thing of choice, just because easy. And they give you like a For You mix every week.
Yeah.
And my mine always has the same song by March 4th, which is I think they're 18 pieces now, marching band. They're like a rock marching band that
really?
Tours around. They're from Portland, Oregon, because of course they are.
Yeah.
With like stilt walkers and acrobats and this very like circus atmosphere.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to check these guys out. This sounds like totally my wheelhouse.
March 4th marching band is fantastic. We actually saw them years and years ago at Fett Ballroom, back when they just rebuilt Fett Ballroom in Providence.
Yeah.
And my at the time she was my girlfriend. My wife and I went down, and our friends who we went to the show with were like, "Yeah, you can stay at our place because you've got to be in Plymouth tomorrow." Because we were my aunt and uncle work on the parade every year.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so, and we had to go do that in the morning. And I'm like, no, it's if we go back to Bellingham where we were living at the time, it's actually a shorter distance from there to Plymouth.
Yeah.
Than Dartmouth. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And so, we went to the show and I ended up having to leave early. Man, if I had only known geography. But yeah, so I get that song every week, but apart from that, it's such a wide array of things, and then like my For You page will be like, hey, you want to listen to that album you've listened to 85 times again? And I'm like, can you suggest me more things?
Right, yeah.
So even I fall into that trap of like not being able to dig into other music. My problem is when I talk to people about this normally, it's like, well, you just want more people to find your music. No, I don't. It's not good. It wasn't recorded well. I just want more people to find music. I want to be able to have an intelligent and informed conversation about the music we like, as opposed to, I'm really into Taylor Swift. I need more. I need more to go off of. Why are you into Taylor Swift? I get that you like that person, but like, give me something, talk about my craft and what I do for a living better, I guess.
Do you find that... Well, I'm going to tell you specifically. So
okay, go for it.
I have a lot of musician friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hate listening to music with them, especially live music.
Yep.
Because if we're at a bar and there's just, a bar band playing, it's just a cover band, they're hanging out, they're playing music, he's flat. I'm like, shut up, I get it, he's flat. I don't care. Like, I'm here to talk to you, and there'd be some... And it almost becomes like, do you have trouble, like, kind of shutting that off?
So I am a terrible musician in one way. A big part of getting in your 10,000 hours, if you want to go that method, is seeing live music. And for a long time, I was like, I don't want to go out and see live music because I could be practicing. Which, ill-informed, but there you go. So when I go out and I do see live music, I try to shut that off. I try to shut the musician off a little bit, as much as I can.
Yeah.
And let it in when things are good.
Right.
So a band that I was playing with opened up for a band called the Cadillac 3. Who were like a kind of like, if they've got a pop country thing, but in a very like heavy riff doom metal idea going in.
Okay.
They're three-piece. They're a guitar player and a drummer, and then a guy who plays lap steel with an octave on the bottom of it. Okay. So it's this big, huge sound. And I went in and I was like, oh man, pop country band. They're going to be the same. Because I had heard one of their tunes on Facebook or something before we went to open for them. And I'm like, I think I'm going to leave after like one or two tunes. Just, say hi, and then I'm going to head out.
Yeah.
Because it was up in Laconia, and like it was a hike. I stayed the whole show because the stuff that they were doing, once I put away that it's pop country thing, it wasn't pop country. The steel player, everybody left the stage, and he does a solo by himself, and he's throwing in like Allman Brothers licks. Like he started playing Jessica by the Allman Brothers, which like by himself on a stage on an instrument that no one understands.
Yeah.
And it was just this thing of like the musician in me is like, that is so cool. And the listener in me is like, what am I even seeing? How is he? It's that thing where if you have to let yourself not be a musician for a minute.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be miserable. If you only see technique and you only see the way someone's doing something, you're gonna miss what they're doing.
Right.
I save that for YouTube and going back and watching something and annoying the crap out of people. Going, look what he's doing. This is so cool. That's wild. There's a video I show people of the Punch Brothers, who are just all phenomenal musicians. And the banjo player makes like a 6-fret stretch on one of his solos. Just huge jump. And blows my mind. And everyone else is like, yeah, he's good at banjo. What is... That's when I dig into the like technique thing. But most of the time, I try to shut it off. I try to like not be the stereotypical musician just sitting there, oh, he's flat, or like, oh man, I could probably do that better. Like, I just go do your thing, and you know, if someone's really bad, it gets really hard to shut off.
Well, yeah, you know? I mean, I feel like there's a certain level where even the regular listener's like, oof, you know, not good.
But there are things that a regular listener's not going to catch, that a musician's going to catch, and it's like, no one cares.
Right.
Everyone's buying drinks, dancing, and having a good time. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know? So
I've discovered through the course of doing this podcast and just getting older in life, realizing that my genre for music is weird shit.
Yeah, I feel that.
And it's, like, I really love what you're saying about, like, finding new stuff and stuff done in different ways. And this band that I heard fairly recently, within the last like 6-8 months or so, stumbled across them on YouTube, and I forget how they describe themselves, but it is someone with a washtub bass, a girl with a washboard, a trumpet, and a guitar player. I think it's only a 4-piece, and they do this punk music, I guess the best way to describe it. And it's just one of those things where you're like, none of this makes sense, but it's really good. So how do you suggest people find that? I know you said I pick up my phone and find it, but
so step one, I guess, is open some of those doors and figure out why you like what you like. What is it about, we'll go base level, what is it about Taylor Swift that makes you happy when you listen to it?
Okay.
And then figure out how that happened. Now, for me, because I am a huge fucking nerd, I go in and I figure out...
a huge Taylor Swift fan.
No, I'm really...
Whatever.
So I had a moment, not with Taylor Swift, but with Maren Morris, just digging into her stuff and going, oh, I really like this. Why do I like this? All my favorite musicians are playing on her records. All my favorite studio guys are there. Or like I'll go in and I'll be like, why do I really like this? And then I'm like, oh, right, everything there was recorded on a Martin, and I'm just a geek for Martin guitar sounds.
Yeah.
You know, and then I go, oh, who else played a Martin? And then off we go.
Right.
Find that thing about that music that makes you stoked on it, whether it's the guy who produced it, and go listen to their other stuff. You know, figure out what the singer was going through, and then find other singers who were going through that when they wrote their record.
Yeah.
We have all of this information. It's all right there. And there's a lot of musicians doing good work to make sure we know who produced and played on their tunes.
Yeah.
There's a lot not doing that, which, you know.
One of the things I used to do a lot was I would, you know, this was way back in the day when you could get a music magazine.
Yeah.
And I'd read the interviews with bands that I like, and a lot of times they'd be like, oh, what are you listening to? And they'd be like, I'm listening to this, that, and the other thing, and I'd be like, well, I don't know who those are, and at the time I'd have to go out and buy the album. Now you can just hop on YouTube and check them out.
I mean, everyone knows a musician at the very minimum. For some people, it's their kid who's trying to be a musician, and for other people, it's the smelliest person in their group. Take your pick.
The smelliest person in their group. Okay.
We tend to be homeless. It's not. We don't make a lot of money. No, but when you're
not homeless, you're touring.
There you go. I am touring without a gig. What is it? What do you call a single musician? Homeless. So everyone knows a musician in their life.
Yeah.
Go find out what's making them creative, or what like they're trying to figure out. You know, talking to other people is always good, just for social reasons anyway.
Yeah.
And it's something I struggle with too. But like, figure out what is making musicians and friends and things like that excited. Like my a friend of mine who's a drummer and I check in all the time, and I've got some killer recommendations for records off of him, and he's gotten great ones off of me, just going like, what's keeping you up at night? What are you listening to at 3 a.m?
Yeah.
You know, when you get off a gig that went really, really bad, like sloppy crowd, people are throwing up who are in the venue, and you just had to get through it. What gets you home after that?
Yeah.
You know, what new thing makes you think, oh man, there's hope for music past like bars and drunkenness and all of that good stuff, you know? And that's how I got into, there's a guy, Theo Katzman, who just put out a killer record. What is her name? Brittany Howard, from the Alabama Shakes, put out a record called Jamie that is, from a recording nerd standpoint, there are moments that like I'm excited about that no one else will ever be excited about, where I'm like, oh man, you can hear the toy piano keys clicking. Yeah, this is why, you know, I don't go to my family's house at holidays, because like, what are you getting, you know, what are you working on, Joe? I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to record this in this way, and they're like,
so you're still doing the music then?
Yeah, exactly. And it, you know, there's also a thing to be said for don't get too deep and just go, I don't know, I'm going to Google cool music and see what comes up.
Yeah.
You know? Or watch a bunch of KEXP or Tiny Desk or...
I love both of those.
Audio Tree Live is a killer one. So many good
things on those.
I found so many cool bands through that.
Yeah.
You know, or... Google musician vlogs and see who those guys are playing for. Yeah. You know, that's how I stumbled upon Noah Guthrie and Good Trouble. Their guitar player has a killer YouTube channel where he just talks about like being a musician on the road.
Yeah,
and he takes the camera around and he goes, "Yeah, this is what we're dealing with right now." And the van's like sideways. You know, but you know that's how you get into stuff like that. So friends and family, and you know, kind of dig deeper and figure out why you like things.
So how much of this like carries over into your own writing of music? Like, do you write more when you're finding more new music? Or is it more of a distraction?
I tend to practice more when I'm finding new music that I like. Like a few months ago, I started listening to a ton of Charlie Hunter. Mm-hmm. He plays an instrument that's essentially half guitar, half bass. So I started trying to apply that to my own playing and like kind of figure out how to like use my thumb to play bass lines and all that different stuff. So when I'm hot on some new music, I tend to be doing my practicing my technical stuff then and digging that out of the music when I find it. Purely because I'm afraid I will grab a concept and go, oh look, I rewrote Gravity by John Mayer. Oh crap! which I've done. I had a chord progression. I'm like, this is really vibing, and we got into a rehearsal, and everyone was like, so you just changed the words to a John Mayer song, and that's all you've accomplished.
And you're like, yeah, but it took me a whole week to do it.
Exactly. Writing for me tends to come out of the blue when I'm not planning it and usually have something else I should be doing. Mm-hmm. The last tune I wrote was in the middle of the woods. I was shooting a couple of videos, and I was like, it just kind of started getting into this chord progression, and in 10 minutes I had a tune like done. Or I'll write something, like I'll write a chord progression and then dig in to the lyrics, and it'll just all fall out of my head onto the paper, and I'll go, I don't understand that, I will sing it though. And then I'll be at a gig like a year later and I'll be like, I understand what I'm saying, and it's like a moment. Yeah, I plan my own sneak attacks long in advance of like having an existential crisis at a gig. Or like my last record that I did all the writing for, those were both off of Down from the Door. So the record after that, I got done and I was like, we had done a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it started out, I rented out a church for 2 days before the Kickstarter happened. And I was like, I don't know that I'm going to have money to do this, so we'll rent out this old church up in Vermont for a couple of days. We'll bring in me and the fiddle player, and just do a duo record and get a really clean, clear...
Why church, though? Was it like an acoustic thing, or...?
It was acoustic, so I had a couple of acoustic guitars that I brought with me, and he brought a couple of different fiddles, and I think a concertina.
But, I mean, were you looking for the specific acoustics of a church, or, like, was it just like it'll be a cool vibe thing, or...?
So, I didn't know why. All I had was church. Do it in a church. Get that sound, you know? Yeah. And I walked in the day that we decided which church to rent, because we were just looking for spaces to record that sounded cool. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of started singing a few bars of one of the tunes we were going to do. This is the space. Built in the early 1800s in Vermont, where I was living at the time. And what it ended up being is this practice for me and an audio engineer friend, less the fiddle player, he was just there to play the fiddle, in like, how do you create a space without the space of, like, we ended up, I think that there are 18 mics at the same time happening on that record in a few places, where we took this big room, put 2 good mics in the back, and then staggered a couple on the pews in 2 different spots, one directly in the center aisle. Then we had our 3 close mics apiece.
Yeah.
And then we set another one up, like, it was a stone church, so it was a kind of like a rock hallway going down into the basement. And we set up another mic out there. And we did a pretty good job of getting the sound of that space without telling anybody where it was. Like, people will listen to that record and be like, "Did you record this in a church?" I won. I did it. Yeah. Awesome. Fuck. And so we went in with that idea, and I brought a bunch of tunes in that we were going to cut. We started putting it together, and I was sitting there, and I had all the songs in front of me, and what I'll do when I make a record is I'll write down the names of the songs on little pieces of paper and lay them all out on usually the floor and figure out what order they go in.
Yeah.
How do they fit together? And usually it's like, okay, this one goes into that, and, you know, it'll make sense. Oh, for this, I got it all put together, and I'm like, oh, crap. Oh, shit. I rearranged them, and I'm like, no, I gotta go back to that order. And I started realizing that I inadvertently told a story using songs that I had written, like, years apart. Like, one of them I wrote before we did the last record, but it wasn't ready to cut yet, and, like, that whole thing. And so, not only did I tell a story, but it was, like, this really, like, philosophical, mildly existential concept record set in Tolkien's Middle-earth, and, like, it was a trip to realize after the fact. So much my songwriting is just, like, let it fall out of your skull and, like, go over there for a bit and germinate and become something that you understand after playing it 50 times in a row, and you finally go, oh, I understand words. Like, that is literally my songwriting. It's never like, I'm going to write a song about this, and then that's what happens. I'll be working on trying to do that when I'm like, hey, what about this other idea? And off I go.
Yeah.
So 2 parts unbridled ADD, and 1 part not understanding what I'm doing at all.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever had anyone be like, yeah, I don't really know.
I wish I could tell you, like, a formula for me for songwriting, but it's so much just like I'll be sitting at home and I'll be supposed to send, you know, so ever many booking emails.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, I always have a guitar in my lap of some sort, or a cat, depends on the day. And
I didn't know you played the cat,
I
too.
do.
Jeez.
It's so hard to you have to poke him just right. Tail pull dive bomb. Anyway, you can take that for a band name if you want. So I'll be sitting with a guitar, and it's just in my lap, and I'll send a couple emails, and I'll practice the scale, and I'll send a couple emails. It's the only way you get it in. And when a song hits, it's just like, okay, I have to stop. And 15 minutes later, it's out, and it's recorded into my phone or, you know, some sort of audio device. And then I'll, like, put it away for a bit and come back and start playing it live. And I try not to do lyric sheets, so it'll be after I've practiced it for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then months later, or I'll record the whole record and then go, oh, I know what I understand what I was saying there.
Yeah.
I'm not really one for digging into the meaning of lyrics. I like to support the lyrics. I'm much better at arranging than I am composing.
Yeah.
But man, when I compose, it literally just falls out. So no method.
So when you write in this manner, is it more difficult to write with a group of people? Like, so if you're writing for a band opposed to writing by, for a solo?
So my experience with writing with a group of people has been, I'm much better as an arranger in that situation. So someone brings a tune in, and I will help create the layers of it. Yeah. Which is one of the things I love in music. If I'm listening to a record and I hear layers and I can get lost in them, awesome. I'm stoked on it. And it's all different genres. It's everything from... there's a band called Elephant Revival, who are like a folky Americana band, but their music is so intricately put together in this beautiful lasagna of sound that I'm just like, give it to me, Garfield. Of sound.
Yeah. That's an album name.
It's definitely like one of those 60s bands that, Lasagna of Sound by Incense and Peppermints. But yeah, so because that's so much where I get lost when I'm a listener, when I'm writing in a group setting, it tends to be someone will bring an idea in, and I'll go, okay, but what if we do this, and what if you don't play that way and maybe play a different way, and kind of guiding the arrangement of the song. I don't like to write lyrics for/with other people. Yeah. I was in an Irish punk band, and I did that once, but it was only because they were, I think we rhymed the words light and night, and I was like, I have to put the stop to this. We can't. We're already in the key of G with a fiddle player. Like, we can't go that low. But apart from that, it's more arrangement, and it's more decisions on the fly. Like, I love being in a studio session and going, hey, what if we just do this? Yeah. And then it works, and you're like, I'm good at this shit again. Like, you'll go like months and months. I kind of know what I'm doing. Not saying it. Like, I'm just going to hang out in the corner, and then you come out and you're like, what if we did this? And everyone goes, and like, everyone's ready to go. So, yeah, man, I writing with other people is weird for me. But then again, I was never good at group projects in school either. I was like, I'll do it. No, give me.
You just sit over there.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, here's your milk. Go that way. I got it. I've got the image in my head of what I want this to be. So, it probably speaks more to me than anything. But.
Yeah. Don't judge. So, you were talking about albums. Are you working on something currently, or?
I'm currently in the writing process, and the deciding process of how I want to cut the record. Yeah. A lot of what I've been listening to has been like solo singer-songwriter-y type stuff. But I've also got like 4 or 5 rock tunes, or like more of that like Americana rock like up thing. And so it'll be a matter of, do I want to put out content, or do I want to put out like curated stacks of things? Yeah. So I'm in the middle of part writing, part I've got like 4 tunes left over from the last record that all were a bit too heavy for the record. And then I've got like 8 instrumental tunes that I'm sitting on that I'm like, do I want to put those out as their own thing? And, because we live in the time we live in, I'm sitting here going, does that muddle the brand? Can I talk about like my love of American primitive guitar at the same time as I talk about my love of Tom Petty and the Rolling Stones and Sun Volt and like all that type of stuff, and then put them all on the same record or on under the same name? Or, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm starting to rebuild the list of musicians who I work with. I took a year off from being a band leader and a singer-songwriter. Just kind of, we had just put out the second, I released music under the band name My Mother's Mustache. Okay. We had just put out the second My Mother's Mustache record called Caliceria, and like 3 months later, I'm sitting there going, I need to take a break. I have to stop being in front of people and kind of sit in the back and like play pedal steel and play guitar and like back other musicians and kind of relearn that end, because I'm a better guitar player when I don't sing, and I'm a better singer when I don't play guitar.
Yeah,
it's that, I'm diluting both.
You're right.
And I had completely ruined my voice just from bad technique plus 3 to 5 gigs a week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
And so I took a year off, and I was backing other artists, and so stepping back into the band leader role, and not being in Vermont anymore, because right when I made that decision, my wife and I started moving back from Vermont to Boston. And because of that, I kind of lost my band because they're still in Vermont, and I'm rebuilding, so I've got a fiddle playing, pedal steel playing, guitar player human who's going to start stepping in and doing some of the sideman stuff, and obviously drummers and bass players, so I'm just kind of trying to get the right fit, gear up for the summer, and that type of thing. So I don't know if there'll be a record this year. I also don't want to rush it. I don't want to put something out too quickly with a band and then have it fall apart, or then have like some critical part of it go away.
Right.
Like when you write a record and you go, okay, well, this record really features someone who plays fiddle and pedal steel, and then you lose your fiddle and pedal steel player. The sound of the record just got more expensive because finding someone who plays one of those is hard. And like both of them is. It's not a wise choice, but still, save a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
But so I'm kind of hesitant. I'm dipping into those waters. I'm contemplating a solo instrumental record and learning songs for people's weddings.
Nice. Where can people go online to find you?
So I'm online at joesabourin.com. That's JOE, S as in Sam, A B as in Bob, OURIN as in Nancy .com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under that name, Joe Sabourin or Joe Sabourin Music. You can find my older records under the name My Mother's Mustache. There's 2 records out there on the internet. And then some of my work I've played, there's a single out there, I think it's still out there. I played
the internet is definitely still out there somewhere.
Played pedal steel and guitar for an awesome young singer-songwriter named Maddie Ryan. And then I played on a woman named Linda Marks' record, and played some guitar and steel on that. So all good things to kind of check out if you're... my stuff is more Americana. Linda's is more like Joni Mitchell style folk, but with piano.
Mm-hmm.
And Maddie's is definitely more for the... I'm into Taylor Swift. I'm into that type of thing. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a cool track. It's a lot of fun. But, if you're looking to check out stuff that I've played on, that's the place to go.
Nice. So. And you're going to play a couple songs for us now?
Definitely am.
What songs are you going to play?
So, the first tune I'm going to play is one off of my record Down From the Door. It's the title track, called Down From the Door. And then I'm going to do something out of character and play the Grateful Dead. I lived in Vermont for 2 years without joining a band that played Grateful Dead songs, which
is that why you had to leave?
Part of it was that, and a lot of people like the Talking Heads.
I like the Talking Heads.
They're a great band.
Yeah,
they're a lot up there.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, every other weekend there's Talking Heads bands, and like every bar you walk into, it's just like, usually Psycho Killer is playing, or Take Me to the River. Of which there are some great covers, and also the original version by Al Green, which is just wicked good. And then, so I'm going to play Friend of the Devil, which I've been playing a lot at shows lately, just because it's making me happy. And then the last tune is another song off of Down From the Door called Ghosts, which is one of those, Joe digs really deep into history moments. I had been listening to another podcast called Lore.
Oh, Aaron Mackey.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Lore is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I had been listening to that, and there's a story on there in one of the early episodes. He talks about 2 doctors who, in I believe, Victorian England during the spiritualist era, they fell in love, but they also wanted to figure out if there was life after death. So they became as close as they could, and they really got to know each other. And then he killed himself, and she never heard from him. They had a whole system of how they were going to communicate, and after he passed, she never heard from him again. And that means one of two things. Either there is no life after death, which is terrifying, or you're still too busy to answer your damn phone, which is way scarier. So that's what I was thinking of when I wrote Ghosts, I guess, because it kind of fit in place. When
he's ghost texting her, "Hey, you up?"
Seriously, yeah. Should have called it that.
Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, man. It's been awesome to be on. I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking out March 4th and sending you some recommendations. So
I definitely think you should. And
I think you're a new way for me to find music.
There you go. Shoot me a message if you're looking for something fun to listen to.
Absolutely. And thanks for listening to us.
On a dream, back when we used to sing, the places we go, people we be, in a different life, and on a different day, we used to play and pretend the nightman could see. We would wage wars against ran away. Now it seems so foolish to look back on that time. We were waiting by your garden gate to see if you'd come down from your door. The night stretched out her arms, safe from harm, to hide us from everything we never did. Our secrets locked away, we ran and jumped and played with the freedom to tell each other we saw in our dreams, with the knowledge that we could never, ever go back again. Now it seems so foolish to look back on that time. We were waiting by your garden gate to see if you'd come down from your door. Years from now, when we're old and grey, I hope you look happily on this life that we've lived. We spun a story here that no one ever knew, couldn't find evidence what we left behind. They couldn't find that hourglass, they only saw time. Now it seems so foolish to look back on that time. We were waiting by your garden gate to see if you'd come down. And now it seems so foolish to look back on that time. We were waiting by your garden gate to see if you'd come down from your door. lit out from Reno, I was chased by 20 hounds. Didn't get to sleep last night till morning came around. Set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, I just might get some sleep tonight. Went to the devil and he loaned me 20 bills. Spent the night in Utah in a cave up in the hills. Set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, I just might get some sleep tonight. I went out off running, but the devil caught me there. Took my $20 bill and he vanished in the air. Said out running, but I take my time. With that friend to the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, I just might get some sleep tonight. Well, I got two reasons why I cry each lonely night. The first one's named Sweet Anne Marie, and she's my heart's delight. The second one is Prison Babe, that devil's on my trail. If she catches up with me, I'll spend the night in jail. Got a wife in Chino, babe, and one in Cherokee. First one says she's got my child, but he don't look like me. Said out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, I just might get some sleep tonight. There you go. It's so incredibly awkward to perform before two people. And like one person's in headphones and I'm just like, oh, it's like radio and I don't like it. Someone's playing Galaga. It's not good. Okay. I know you've heard it before. She said she'd open that door to a place that I couldn't see. Deep down inside of me, she danced around in the dark, in the middle of that town park. She led me down a dark road, but that's what she came to find. Because every day we see these things that we can't explain, and these ghosts are out so deep in our minds. Sometimes they get outside. Like a flash of heavenly light, she stole away my sight. She led me down that dark road. She told me I kissed a toad. Then we flew away in the night. Then we landed in the sunlight. She returned me to my own world. My vision no longer swirled. Because every day we see these things that we can't explain, and the ghosts are also deep in our minds, and sometimes they they get outside. So now you've heard my story. You've seen those things you can't see. But don't be worried, my friend. It all works out in the end. Because every day we see these things that we can't explain. And the ghosts are also deep in our minds. And sometimes they get, sometimes they get, sometimes they get, sometimes they get outside.
So it's Miller time now, I guess. Thanks for listening to the Inebri-art podcast. And if you get a chance, we have Jam Packed with Matt and Jeff, another podcast that we put out where they review and talk about all things horror movie related. And then starting in September, we have 2 more podcasts coming out. The Bar Talk, hosted by Carl and Jordan, and they'll be talking to bartenders and owners and restaurant staff of all kinds about the crazy things they go through. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then we also have the Old Colony Cast, another weekly podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas, events, anything going on, interesting people. So if you're a tourist or you live in the area, make sure you check that one out for all sorts of cool stuff. And thanks for listening.